heated seats with the fucking temperature gauge. It was remote controlled. To get nice and clean.
Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Pregame Show, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook and actually presented by Fubo TV. DraftKings is cool too, though, but Fubo's our presenting sponsor. Check them out. Go watch your Avalanche on Fubo TV. AJ Rudo Blaze coming to you live. Obviously, the big news today, not actually this hockey game, but Gabe Landeskog out for the entire playoffs.
The world's most depressing.
Yeah, that was not a confidence bringing press conference by any stretch of the imagination.
What a miscalculation by the front office. Like, this is a misstep, I think, here.
Please don't.
Okay.
Please don't. Please don't.
We have this opinion on. We have this opinion. Let's just fucking
Why
talk
not?
about
Please
it. Then.
don't. Like, you had a guy that was injured that you had a timeline on.
Okay.
And it was he might play in the playoffs. He might not. He might be back by the end of the season. Why not put that guy on LTIR and go pick up a short-term rental for the year?
So they would have done that if they could find a rental, first of all. That was always the plan if they found a guy.
Which rental did you want?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at what's available.
Okay.
And secondly, from the interview itself with Landeskog, the plan a couple of weeks ago was still for Landy to come back and play in the playoffs. So the expectation from Colorado was that he was going to be back for the playoffs at worst at the deadline. Obviously, things have changed from at worst.
Now we're letting players decide what's good for the team there?
What do you mean?
Well, just from the standpoint of every player is going to be like, I'm pushing to get back. I'm going to go. And especially a guy like Gabe Landeskog.
That's not,
but in a normal situation, you have a firm timeline on an injury. Sure. And this has been an injury that, remember, at the start of the year, it was 12 weeks.
Yep. Yeah.
And so then it was going to be
that should be red
and
flags,
then it was
right?
going to be mid-January, and then it was like, hey, well, because the All-Star game and the bye week and all that shit comes up, don't expect this guy back before February. Honestly, all right, so then February comes around, and then he's still not back. But then it was. Did you guys remember March 15th was like the whole thing? It's going to be March 15th. All right, so March 15th, and then the deadline comes between those two. And it was like, we still don't really know what's going on with Landeskog. He's still, at that point, on deadline day.
Yep.
The conversation was, they have $13 million to spend because Eric Johnson's done for the season and Gabe Landeskog is done and Gabe Landeskog may or may not come back. We didn't know about him, but Eric Johnson was done for the season.
And he came back, by the way.
And that was an injury that they had a firmer timeline on.
Yeah, he had a timeline that he didn't miss either. Like, the timeline went out and it got better.
I hear what you're saying, but again, from this interview, Landy is saying, we were making good progress. We're hitting all our milestones until I plateaued. And in these last few weeks,
I plateaued
well after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So unless the Avs had a crystal ball.
Look, I get that. But like, as the front office, your whole game plan is like, you're trying to ice the best team. You have contingency plans going out there because you're right. You don't know what's going to happen with an injury. And the minute he misses his first, like, okay, he's going to be skating again, red flag should be going up if he's not skating on that date. And you start to create different plans for different scenarios. I understand that there is this point where he could come back.
Okay, and the other thing,
but it's the timeline, right? Like, look at it from the point of the playoffs start, he can play. The Lightning have shown you that you can do this with LTIR. I don't know who was out there at the time that they could go and get, but you could realistically have a guy here.
So you could cheat. You want to cheat, is what you're saying.
I mean, cheat. Everybody else is doing it, right? Like, the precedence has been set that you can do this. So why not take advantage of it?
But you're operating at an extremely high risk of doing things with your lineup if you go out and do that.
Sure.
And then the flip side of this conversation is he doesn't come back. We're in this world.
Yeah.
You now went out and got a great asset, and you're still missing Landeskog for this playoff run.
Oh, 100%. You're not replacing the guy. I'm just saying it would be nice to have somebody that's you're not moving people up in your lineup to cover for it.
So the timelines of this just don't work. Is my problem with this. This is why Rudo and I were frustrated with this line of thinking coming in, is that the timelines just don't work.
Yep. And like
if you were, and I understand about you're creating contingency plans and this and that, but if they had confidence that he was not going to be ready until the postseason, then I agree with you. Then on deadline day, they failed to go and do anything at that position to help them. But they didn't have confidence he was going to miss. They had more confidence that he was going to be back before the regular season ended, which would have left them in a position where if he comes back, he can't play.
Now you're doing Vegas icing 15 skaters level stuff.
So if he comes back and he can't play because you went and got somebody at the deadline or multiple somebodies at the deadline, let's be honest, they would have been worse than Gabe Landeskog.
100%.
You would have been icing the worst, the lesser of lineups had that guy come back, and maybe it would have been
until
fine.
Playoffs, though, right?
Right, and then in play once round one of the postseason started, you're just like, yay, Yahtzee and whatever. But they had more confidence at the deadline that he would be playing for them by the end of the year than what has happened, and that's you have to make a decision.
Well,
and their decision was, we think we're going to have him back. They end up being wrong. And that sucks.
Of course.
But you had to choose a timeline.
And
you couldn't walk both.
Well, there's two.
And so you have to make a choice there. The other thing is the Avs have 0 mid-range assets to work with. So they were either in the position. People thought that they overpaid for Lars Eller. What were people going to react? How are people going to react when they're spending first round pick? When they're spending first round picks on a second line wing or whatever. Like to me, this was a lose-lose spot where you were only going to try and minimize the damage, and to pretend today when you have the certainty of he will not play. Well, that certainty didn't exist on deadline day.
100%.
And that's where the frustration from me comes in. That
the thing is about deadline day,
nonsense conversation of you're using today's certainty to make decisions 2 months ago.
No. I'm not saying
I guess a month ago.
If today was
a month and a half.
If today was certain, then you don't create different plans and look at things that you might be able to do at the deadline. Because look at it from this standpoint. Landeskog's missing his dates to come back, right? So what do? So you're saying at the end of the year you might get games where he can't play. How many games is that?
I don't know the answer to that.
See, that's
because if it's 2, you don't care.
Yeah, and that's
if it's 12,
right?
You care.
The frustration here, I think, has been a little bit muddled because I think it's perfectly fair to say at the time, at the deadline, a lot of people wanted the Avs to do more.
I wanted them to do more. I said it was a disappointment.
So did I. And it's
We're all in agreement on that part of it.
That has nothing to do with the Gabe Landeskog situation.
Yeah, it had
They're
nothing to do with
entirely
Landy.
different things. And
I'm not saying that part. I'm just saying, like, if you have a player that looks like, hey, he might make it back, he might not. So you exercise the LTIR option.
Well, so this is where the certainty that you have right now, and especially with the press conference.
Yes.
No, so what I'm saying is moving forward, the difference, what this does now is that when you go into this offseason, you say, we've got $7 million extra to spend.
Yeah.
Because we are not playing this game with Gabe Landeskog next year. We're not worrying about this. We are spending that money.
Yeah.
We'll keep some of it to be safe. Maybe we'll spend 6 of it.
Well, he's going to have.
And so what even by his own admission, this could easily slide into next year. So with that certainty, where this is different, where it's different today versus on deadline day, is that today you have the certainty to make that decision when you go into the offseason of we will spend that money, and then when we get to that part, we will deal with it. If it goes our way and Gabe Landeskog is on the ice for us in December or whatever, and you're like, great.
You solve that problem when you get there.
You get there and you say, okay, but the certainty that they got today of We don't know what's going on. We will not know what's going on anytime soon.
Yep.
They walk into the summer now and say, we will be using that LTIR space.
Yep.
We have that extra $7 million to spend. We are not restricted by that anymore because we do not have confidence he will come back at a certain time. On deadline day, the confidence was we will have the player back. And that's the big difference of when you're a front office and you have to make decisions that you can't take back.
Right.
You have to pick a direction. You have to make a decision on, are we getting a rental? Are we getting a guy with term? Are we getting a guy with this, with that?
Well, I think the one final thing I would say, because we do have to talk about this game coming up a little bit, is you can see the confidence from the Avs front office that they thought Landy was going to be back because of the timelines, because of the steps back.
That he kept missing.
Yeah, I get that he kept missing them, but they felt like he was still going to become back because if they didn't feel like that, they would have just said, yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
Right. The moment that they got clarity on it, the moment that they got certainty on it, they came out and said, it's done. We're moving on.
Yep.
Sure.
And that's where this is a lot of revisionist stuff is happening here. And I again point to the Eric Johnson thing.
Well, I'm Captain Hindsight here.
Because I point to the Eric Johnson thing because we all were looking at Eric Johnson and saying he's done for the rest of the season.
And that dude got better in 3 weeks.
He ended up zooming past that timeline, and he's back. And they've needed him to be back in the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
They've needed that guy so that they aren't playing. Who's even next after Brad Hunt and Curtis McDermott at this point, and Jack Johnson? That's half of your defense.
Wyatt Amott and Keaton Middleton.
Is it Keaton Middleton and Wyatt Amott? I mean, is it Ryan Merkley? Who's next here? So this is where we walked in frustrated today. Was that people were having really disingenuous conversations.
They were just straight up making stuff up.
Acting like the information that we had today is information that they had
a month and a
trade
half
deadline
ago.
day.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when everything is just kind of out there and nothing's for certain, there's always different plans that you're creating.
It's 100%
from a business operation side.
I mean,
you're creating different plans because scenarios don't work out, right? And like, I get it. Like, they didn't pull the trigger. That was their choice. I'm not, I'm just saying, like, yes, I'm looking from it now knowing that he's not going to come back. I'm just saying there is a place where you get a short-term rental, and yes, you're giving up options. But if it is win right now and Landeskog's going to come back, then you pull those levers this year, because what you're saying is like, absolutely, that's going to be awesome for next year when you can pick up a player that replaces him so that the team's ready to go throughout the season.
Yeah.
But that's not helping this team out right now. That's in the window to win.
Yeah, and it will still be in the window. Who are they losing in the offseason?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like next
Maybe
year, yes,
JT.
but it's who's helping me right now?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And
that sucks.
And
it's Evan Rodriguez.
And again, I think that's a fair argument. Completely
It's
separate
not,
from
though.
Gabe Landeskog.
This comment that it was pretty certain he was not going to play during the
that's
regular
just
season at
No,
deadline.
That's just not true.
It is not true.
That was just not true.
It is not true. Okay? It is not true. It might have been true in the world that you have decided that you were living in at the time, but in reality, in the front office where the people who have the most information, it was not true. They had to make a decision there.
In tonight's game, we're just moving on. The Winnipeg Jets are sitting everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yep.
They are just sitting everyone.
Basically, so Ehlers is hurt.
Yep.
Hellebuck is out. Schmidt is out.
I think it was
there anybody else? Oh, Morrissey's sitting.
Yep. They
Dubois
had
and Shifley are sitting,
Yep.
and Wheeler.
Yeah,
so
that's
chalk this up as an
everybody.
Avs loss?
It shouldn't be. This is this is a. Z was joking earlier. That's the Dom Toninato revenge tour.
Yeah, right. Toninato hat tricks.
If it's the Dom Toninato revenge tour, you don't deserve to win the Central.
No kidding.
Well, look at Calgary last night.
The Z hat trick. Not only is Winnipeg sitting everybody, the Avs get Artturi Lehkonen back tonight. Their top six gets better, even on a day that Landeskog, he's not coming back.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, but
And
man,
this
that's
is
awesome.
this is now the certainty that you have. You say this is your playoff top six.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You get 2 games. Well, depending on how things play, they might rest some people tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah.
But you potentially get 2 games of your actual playoff top 6 to gel a little bit, figure things out, and be ready to go. There's no 2 ways around this. Anything less than a win tonight would be disappointing, and really, the Avs should win this one pretty handily. They have everything to play for. Winnipeg has nothing to play for.
And they're treating it that way.
Yep.
They had the big party last night. They clinched. They
Yep.
partied. They're sitting all those dudes because they're all hungover. They all want to play in altitude. It's David Riddick in net. That's a guy that you lit up in the postseason last year and almost ruined his entire NHL career. Just go do that again.
Yep.
I mean, they'll be flying around in their little jet, and it's Independence Day where the alien ship kind of comes over and just kind of annihilates all these little jets that are pesky to them.
It would be super cool if they just like opened up the big gun and it's just like Miko and Nate
Planet
just go fly
Cracker
out
Beam.
and they just like bombard with goals and you're just like, yeah.
Well, and look, it is
That's what the
important.
laser's made of.
It's 6
Hockey
nothing.
pucks.
Yeah, exactly.
It is important for Colorado
6-0
to
5 minutes in.
get out and do it quickly because they do have a back-to-back tomorrow against Nashville, which, you know, assuming St. Louis doesn't pull it out against
Nashville
Dallas.
also plays today, so you do have like.
But if the Avs can save their legs and
Yeah,
have that little extra
absolutely.
edge on them,
if you can get to a point where you're just rolling lines tonight, get to that point.
and you know, there's a non-zero chance that St. Louis helps the Avs out and beats Dallas, and the Avs could clinch tonight. But don't count on that.
Yeah, you are still in the Pedro Serrano telling Joe Buddha fuck off, and that he's got to do it himself.
I do it
mode.
myself.
Yeah, you are still in. I have to do this myself. The Avs still control this. They just need to win these last 2 games. Winnipeg has made this easy for you.
They have.
They are more or less getting out of the way and saying, here are 2 points.
We'll let you sort it out.
This can be good revenge for what Colorado's lineup looked like when they went to Winnipeg in November.
And they had a bunch of
and got bodied
AHLers.
by nothing. And they had a bunch of nobodies. A bunch of their AHL guys were in that lineup. Yeah.
We're moving quick here. Blaze, did you send in some bets? Do we have some gambling to do?
Look at this. Yep. Look at here.
Off the
like
rails.
it's almost like we were talking about. Like, I think what's going to happen is it's Pit Viper time, right? Like sticking the
so.
Jets in there and they're just going to attack. Like, especially at the back-to-back, right? You want to just get a lead early and then shut it down. And I think you're going to see McKinnon and Rantanen. Everybody's going to be going.
There you go.
So, yes.
Vibes all
I got
over.
what I wanted.
Go plus
So,
money.
McKinnon,
It's Nichushkin. It's Nichushkin next to Miko and Nate.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
Lehkonen and Comfort Rodriguez. Newhook, Eller, and Malgin stay together.
Interesting.
Nieto, Cogliano,
And
LLC.
then the
dope.
grind line for the 4th. Yeah.
So the first line's going to dominate from that.
Yeah,
that
you
graphic
have
right there.
their top line for the Jets tonight is Kyle Connor. He's good.
That's a good player.
Vladislav Nemesnikov.
That's a less good player.
Carson Kuhlman.
Okay.
Then you get into Nino
Those are
Niederreiter,
That's a decent player.
Adam Lowry,
On a second line.
He's a
Mason
third
Appleton.
liner.
On a second line.
Appleton.
Yeah.
That's a good
And then
promotion.
Morgan Barron, Dom Toninato, and Saku Menelainen, David Gustafson, Kevin Stenlund, and Axel Janssen Fjällby.
So you should just be better on every phase.
So you have 3 lines almost entirely comprised of bottom 6 players for the Jets.
Yeah.
Their defense is Dylan Sandberg, Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon, Neil Pionk, Logan Stanley, Kyle Capobianco.
If there was ever a
They
night,
are getting out of the way, guys.
if there was ever a night to bet on the Avs to win, it's tonight.
It's minus 300. You
Yeah,
think you're going to
pick-
get any
Parlay something with that. Yeah.
Exactly.
first period?
Start
by
picking
2 goals.
parlays. Do whatever you have to do because this should be. If they lose this game, it will be a tremendous
Disastrous.
I
disappointment.
will have some
Yeah.
concerns. After
It will be a
this.
tremendous disappointment if they lose this.
On that note, we're going to wrap this up. We do have a watch along coming your way. And before that, when you get your bets in with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can download the app, but make sure you're 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See the show notes down below for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. It's all void in Ohio. And a super chat from Banks for $5 who says, very sad. Thoughts out to Landy. The guys know now and just got to take care of business. I still have faith in this group. Let's do the thing. I mean, if the Avs do even make a deep run without Gabe Landeskog, it's just that much more impressive, right?
They still can. The West still sucks.
Oh, I agree. The West is still very much doable.
And that's a big thing to hit on too, right? Like Landy's health and what his health looks like after his hockey career needs to come first.
Of course.
It sucks as you get
He's
older.
fine. He's already wandering around fine. He even said today he's
He's walking
good.
around, yeah, right.
But
Like that's going to be fine. But like if he's doing surgeries to try to get back into,
Don't come back too early and make it worse. And
Yeah.
For
remember
me-
the human.
Look, just get microfracture surgery this week.
And it either works or it doesn't.
Be out for the next year, and that either fixes the cartilage issue or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the Avs move on and plan for him not to have him next season. Spend the $7 million on Ryan O'Reilly as your 2C. Not all 7, but some of that money.
We'll talk about
And
it
then
more
you're
this
golden.
weekend, or maybe
It's so easy.
Yeah.
See, I could be the GM that knows everything too.
we'll talk about it
sure
more.
GM.
Easy, man.
I promise
Captain
we'll get into this
Hindsight.
conversation later. I know everyone just wants to scream and yell about it, but we got a hockey game to watch.
Let's
so
go. Let's go,
Game's
Avs.
gross.
join the watch along, and we will talk to you soon.